Hey everyone, welcome back to the NY Patriot Show. Today we have a special Super Bowl Sunday show. If you don't want to be bothered watching that crap on TV and the ritual at halftime, you can come jump in on this live episode that I'm doing with Mike and Mateo from the Whatcast. Would you two gentlemen, I guess you can decide who wants to go first, introduce yourself and let my listeners who may not know who you are already, what your show is about, what you cover, what you're into, what your passion is with this project.
Oh,
Jump
yeah,
on in, Mateo.
Yeah, whichever, whoever
sure.
wants to go first. Mike, how about you go first? Just to make it
All
easy.
right. All right. So we have a show called the Whatcast. Basically, we cover like the weird and paranormal, unexplained, all that stuff. Um, but we try to present it from a more of a humorous and skeptical angle, I guess. We are not the typical like tinfoil hat believers. Um, it's we're more skeptical, I guess we can say, about what we're covering, but we've been doing the show for almost 10 years now. In June or July it'll be our 10-year anniversary.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, June.
I got some fucking OGs on this show. Holy
Yeah, so we've been doing it a while. We do 3 times a month we put out our main show, and then um we've got a side show we do called Casting What's, which is basically where we just shoot the shit and fuck around and talk about bullshit. Um, that's not necessarily related to paranormal topics, but sometimes inevitably ends up there because it's hard to get away from it once you get balls deep in there.
no. I know how it is. Like I even have another show, The Spiritual Gangsters, and it's like more on people's like it's like spiritual experiences, and it's like somehow we still always end back to like conspiracies and stuff. And then like high weirdness, it's just you can't get away from it.
Yeah.
Now I also know one of you is also a fellow New Yorker too, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's me. I'm Central New York, just
Yeah,
outside of Syracuse.
yeah, you're a hike from like Queens, right?
Yeah, good 5 hours at least.
Yeah, so I guess you won't be coming here to record with me then.
No, I've only been I've only driven through the city once. I've never actually been there. I was only reason I had to drive through the city was to get from New Jersey to Staten Island.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I've
That's
I've never been in the city at all. I don't know anything
oh, wow.
about it. I've
Good, good, good.
yeah, I'm really not a big
You're not missing
fan of
much.
cities. That's why I'm up here,
You're
nice
missing
and rural.
all you're missing is a fuck ton of people and a bunch of occult architecture.
Yeah, I mean the occult architecture sounds pretty cool,
Oh
but
yeah, but the all the people around you can
yeah,
just
but then there's millions of people there, and
yeah.
that's not my jam. That's why I live out here.
Mm. You know what's funny? I don't know. This is like totally off the topic, and I was just thinking about it right now. Like when I joked around about like, oh, I guess you won't be coming here to record. Like, have you ever like, did you ever see some podcast where it's like you got like five dudes in a room that don't live anywhere near each other in a studio?
Yeah,
How does that happen?
I have no idea.
With a lot of money.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. I mean, Mateo and he lives in California. I live in New York. Like I said, we've been doing this almost 10 years. Never met each other. Never.
I know. There was something that popped into my head not too long ago, and just why I was making that joke. Maybe because I'm stoned. I was just like, how does like how do I want to know how do I go from this guy sitting on a couch behind the mic to having a studio and a bunch of dudes and motherfuckers coming to me to come on my show? I want to know what needs to be done to get there. That's a rather interesting thing.
It's weird. The whole
Yeah, it's a
the
little
rules
weird.
the rules
Riddle.
changed halfway through us doing this shit. You see shows that have come out with they're on a third episode. They already have 5,000 followers, and you're like, what? How does that happen? That doesn't even make sense. But
No,
and then you find out, you can just fucking buy followers now.
that is true too. Yes, that is true. But I guess we'll get into it. I'm sorry about sidetracking. Um,
That's half our show. That's what we do. We're pros at sidetracking. 99% of the time we'll end up on fucking comic books or some movie we watch.
That's all right. I know the topics, surprisingly for people, I even made sure I told Helen about this, and I'm pretty sure she was actually surprised. I'm actually entertaining the topic of Bigfoot with these fellows right here. I know normally I may joke about that stuff and find it a little silly, but I did come across their show on Bigfoot, and I heard a bunch of stuff that I was like, wow, I can actually jive with this, and this is kind of how I think about it as well. So I think maybe in the first half of the show we'll probably talk about that, and then maybe at the end we'll get into Stardust Ranch as well, which is another place close to Skinwalker Ranch. So I'm definitely interested in both those topics myself. If you want to, real quick, I don't know if you did it already. Your links and everything are already in the bottom, but you want to let everybody know where they can find your stuff as well.
Yeah, our podcast is everywhere podcasts are. We can go to the whatcast.com. We're on Instagram, the Whatcast, everything. Facebook, I believe. Facebook sent me an email saying they weren't gonna host podcasts anymore, and then locked us out of our account. And just by the chance, I went back and it allowed me in. I actually posted a picture of their email saying that, and they had deleted that. So yeah, but we're on there now. The shows, I'm trying to get the shows to work to go straight there when they publish, but Facebook is a weird place.
Yeah, I'm streaming live to there right now through StreamYard actually, but they can. I have noticed. Well, I was gonna say they're probably worse than YouTube, but they don't ban your account, so I guess they're not worse than YouTube. But you know how many times they've actually just removed my audio? So you
Oh
can
wow.
watch my video, and they'll actually send me a message saying remove the audio from your post. I'm like,
Wow.
what's the point of my hour and a half podcast up for if you remove the audio? Why don't you just take it down? That's like I'm just gonna stick the tip in. Like who the you know what I'm saying? Like, what's
Yeah,
the point of that? Like, just take it down.
when they unlocked our account after saying they were going to host podcasts, it unlocked an old personal account that I got locked, I think, in 2015. And I I don't give a shit about I don't have a social media account for myself since then. And I tried to log into that and it allowed me. And I went back to the podcast page and I typed in that password and it locked me out of that old personal account again. And I was like, okay. And it said, click this to figure out the steps. And they wanted me to take a picture of my fucking ID and
Oh,
send it to them. And I actually got somebody in chat and they're just like, yeah, try not to have a glare. And I asked them, I was like, does that sound sane to you at all to send you a photo of my ID for a social media website? And they were like, that's what you have to do. And I was like, close it. Close the account, please. You're out of your fucking mind, you fucking crook.
that is insane.
My fucking ID. Didn't they teach us when we were kids, when the internet first came out, to never, ever, ever put your ID online? I mean, just like, how does that sound right to you, sir?
Yeah, no, I would have been like, you can just keep the account. I'm good. I'll just make another email and make another one.
Yeah, it's easy.
Yeah. Right. So if you guys want, I don't know. I mean, I guess we'll start off with Bigfoot first. I don't know which one of you want to start off and take it. If you want to maybe just give a little overview about the whole. I mean, I'm sure
Yeah,
who's listening knows what the fuck Bigfoot is.
yeah. I'm not gonna get into the
Okay.
bullshit that everybody knows about, like the Patterson tape, like none of that, because it's honestly, it's not really relevant to what I'll be talking about anyway.
Real quick
It's
though, if you don't mind me asking, what
yeah.
is your beliefs on that original videotape?
Honestly, I think it's legitimate.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
there's a lot of reasons why I think it's legitimate. The arm length thing with the like if a human is going to be posing in a suit, right? You can't extend the upper arm of a human because the elbow limits that. So you can only extend the forearms. But looking at the actual figure that's caught on tape there, you can see that the arm is in proportion to each other, and the upper arm is longer than what the human upper arm would be, and where the elbow joint is, it just doesn't match human anatomy. Also, this was the fucking 60s. We've seen what special effects were like in the 60s, and you're telling me some bums that are just romping around the woods are gonna be able to afford state-of-the-art technology, let alone state-of-the-art special effects that look better than anything is in a movie at that point in time.
Well, that's
But
what I had even thought about. Like, I'll be honest, I'm still not sure what to think about the video, but I guess in the defense of saying that it could be legitimate is what you're saying. It is like I very well done for the time. It's just like
right,
I have they even made something look that good up until maybe like the last 10 or 15 years, actually.
right. The one thing that is suspect about it is it just happened to be these guys were looking for Bigfoot for a documentary, and they found Bigfoot. Like, that's the suspicious part of it, though, because like, what are the fucking chances? You know, you've got thousands of assholes romping around the woods every weekend looking for Bigfoot, and what do we get other than blurry shadows in the distance and something knocking on trees? Really, not a whole hell of a lot. Like, even to this day, to me, like, all of the footage that's like any like the sightings or pictures or whatever, like, aside from the Florida skunk ape picture, the Patterson footage is still, to me, the most convincing footage there is. Which isn't, again, it's not to say that it's real, it's just it doesn't, it's better than anything else that could have been presented at the time. And, you know, the coincidences, w it's hard to ignore the coincidence, but also, where are these assholes getting the money for this thing, and how the fuck are they doing it? And also, one other thing that gets me is the fact that you can actually see breasts on this thing. Like, if you're getting a Bigfoot suit made, wouldn't you be making, like, a big hulking ape? Like, why would you be like, "Yo, throw some tits on that, dude?" It doesn't make
The
sense.
extra for the tits. It'll look
Yeah.
great.
Maybe they're like Nostradamus and they knew what was coming in the 2020s.
Yeah, maybe. They're gonna question it if we don't. Just trust me on this one.
It'll get canceled if it doesn't have price.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But to me, Bigfoot isn't like a lot of people that follow the Bigfoot thing. I think if Bigfoot is real, and that's an if, but if Bigfoot is real, I don't think that it's like a lost hominid species that's just romping around out there. And there's a lot of weirdness that goes along with a lot of encounters with Bigfoot. And it seems to be certain areas as well seem to have more um, Bigfoot sightings that coincide with weirdness. Like, there's this area in Pennsylvania that has all this weird shit that happens. They've got like hauntings, they've got Bigfoot sightings. It's York County in Pennsylvania, but the area itself extends. It's the southeastern part of York County, in areas around Muddy Creek Bridge, and the Susquehanna River and the Mason-Dixon line. Like, this area there, there's long history of hauntings and weird shit that has happened there. And that throughout the 1800s, there were stories of ghosts that would haunt the roadways in this area at night. And it actually prevented a lot of people from traveling those roads at night during that time. In the late 1860s, there was a man named Nehemiah Cooper who was walking home from an evening service at the Mount Nebo Church, and they see in the middle of the road this thing that looks, they said it looks like to be the size of a bucket. And as they're walking up to it, this thing goes from being, how big's a bucket? Like maybe a foot tall and maybe
Yeah.
a foot around, something like that, whatever. Small anyway. But as they approached it, it kind of sprung up and it became this huge hulking figure that was 12 to 15 feet tall and 6 feet wide. And at first they thought it was like a Halloween prank because it was late October, and they started throwing rocks at it and yelling to it. But
Plus, rocks at it.
they just, I don't know what they thought, like if they thought it was like maybe people like piled up on top of each other or something. who knows? But it started advancing on them, so then they took off and ran away, and when they came back later, there were no signs that the thing had ever existed. But it's one of those things where it's like it looks like it doesn't make sense, you know, like it's this little tiny thing, and then it springs up into this big humanoid figure that approaches them. And this sort of thing has happened for basically since there have been people in the area. There have been reports of these hauntings and Bigfoot sightings. Um, but the Bigfoot sightings themselves really started to pick up in the area in the 1970s, and for some reason they
Do you ever, real quick? I just want to ask
yeah
your opinion on something before I forget.
yeah.
And that said, I mean, I don't see Bigfoot as being I guess, a threat in people's minds, but like one time I had covered a guy called Edward Lansdale, who was like basically like a psyop guy for the government, before Michael Aquino was known. And like
Mhm.
he had like people in the Philippines like thinking that like vampires were killing people.
Oh yeah, the
I mean,
shit.
I'll be totally honest with you. If I was walking through the woods and some dude's hanging with like cuts in his neck and blood on the ground, or no,
Yeah.
actually, or whatever, just the way you looked, regardless if I thought a vampire or anything, I'm just it's just so gruesome anyway. It could scare people. So I mean, I
Oh
don't know
yeah,
if it's really
absolutely.
the idea of the vampire the way it was portrayed, but it did freak people out. So
Have you ever heard the tapes they would play, flying the choppers around?
yeah, I played that when I covered it too. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's
And
I
they were
mean,
like
and
telling the people like you're not going to be like when you die you're not going to go to heaven or something like that. Like you're going to be stuck in limbo because you're helping the hucks or whatever people, right?
yeah,
It's
one
wild.
section is of a child crying out for their soldier father to stop fighting because
Yeah,
they
yeah,
would
yeah.
be together in heaven, and they did some heavy shit.
I was like even reading how they made that, and it was actually like multi-layered sounds being played too.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they put some work into that.
It's
Now,
creepy shit, man.
not to stay on that for too much, as interesting as that is, I mean, do you ever think like do you ever wonder if like maybe Bigfoot just like kind of gets thrown in there sometimes out of just to fuck with people? Not saying that it's not real in general. You know
I
what I'm
don't know.
saying?
Bigfoot's like one of the big famous cryptids. Everybody knows about Bigfoot. The thing that gets me with Bigfoot and why I think that it probably is a real thing, it's just not what we think it is that every continent, every culture on the planet almost
Yeah.
has their version of the
Uh-huh.
exact same thing, and even if you get into like Yeti or where they're supposed to be seen in the snow, I mean, they're white. They've changed they've altered for the environment. They've evolved to be able to live in that environment. So
Well, the
I
original Yeti sighting was basically Bigfoot. It was a dark figure, and the original photographs that allegedly showed Yeti it was a dark figure walking on the mountain. It wasn't until recently that the white haired Yeti became a thing, and I wonder how much it had to do with Empire Strikes Back.
with the Wampa.
Yeah,
I've never even thought of like the different names and the different colors, even just going back to occultism, if that could actually mean something.
Oh yeah, there's
To me, like a white one would definitely like more of the beast or untamed electricity or energy. You know
there's
what I'm saying?
orange ones.
Yeah.
There's orange ones. There's red ones.
Was the orange one the one with the boobs?
No, that's
Oh, damn. No,
isn't
because that would have
Orion.
went perfectly with the hermaphrodite symbol on the yellow, the orange sphere on the tree of life. That was
Hmm.
just a because you got it's a hermaphrodite symbol. Actually, I made a post about that earlier today. I'm sure nobody gives a flying fuck or they'll pay attention, but I do think that's a lot of reasons why you like the big thing now is like showing John Cena in a skirt. It's like I mean, yeah, it's fucking silly. But like to me, it's like the guy's just telling you he's taking on the archetype that goes along with that fucking sphere when it comes to magic. You know what I'm saying? So whatever.
Yeah,
I
there's
was just
there's
well, that's because maybe giving something making something look a little androgynous would also fall into that category, which is why I asked if the orange one had the boobs. to where if you couldn't tell if it was a man or a female.
I'm sure there is one with boobs.
Yeah. Who knows?
An orange
And
one.
real quick, because I do know it's getting late for Helen, but I want to know: have you guys? And I hope she's not fucking with me, and this is actually real. Have you ever heard of the cryptid called the squank?
Yeah, Creature of the Lumber Woods
Yeah,
was
I was just gonna say that's a Creature of the Lumberwoods.
Oh,
it's
okay.
a
Love that
it's a
shit.
book that was written in what 1912, I think, maybe 1920.
Was it? I
And
thought it was the 1800s.
I don't know. I think that's when it was preserved and reprinted. Maybe I don't know, but it's a book that logs all the creatures that were supposedly seen by the early loggers, and their creatures are just fantastic. We've done a few shows on that because there's so many to cover, and that one's supposed to be this blob-like creature that cries because it's so ugly, and if you see it and look at it, it'll cry and run away. But it gets weird. I mean, there's birds that lay square eggs because they live mainly on mountains, so their eggs are square, so they've adapted for them to not roll off the mountain.
Imagine
There's
having to push that out.
yeah,
That's
one of
fucked
my
up.
favorites is a creature they describe in that book. It's called the rock slide bolter, and it's basically a creature that's basically a whale, the size of a whale, and its mouth is built to where the lower jaw protrudes, so it can open its mouth, and it has, instead of like a whale's finned tail, it has two big hooks, and they hang on cliff sides, and they wait for travelers or anything to pass down below, and they let go, and they slide down the side of the mountain and engulf whatever they run into. And it has all the cool old, wood engraved drawings of all these creatures. There's a creature that's popular now called the hide behind, which is when you get that feeling you're being watched when you're in the woods and you turn around and you don't see anything. That's the hide behind. He always hides behind something, so you don't really get to see him.
All right, yeah, I just wanted to make sure I asked for about the squank because I saw Helen was asking, and she's over in the United Kingdom right now, so I know it's getting late for her. So
Oh yeah.
yeah, so we'll just get back to Bigfoot now. So I just wanted to make sure I asked if you
Oh
guys.
yeah.
I actually was, because it sounds like so close to skank. I was like, is she fucking with me? Is this even real?
No, yeah, it's
You just
real.
wanted me to ask it.
That's another
It's
creature.
Which would have been
absolutely
hilarious. Which would
a
have been
real story.
hilarious and totally fine by me if she would have told me too. I just would have thought I just wasn't sure.
The
All right. So we'll
long-legged
get back
creature that
to
tried to seduce all the loggers. The skink.
Oh, it's squonk. All right. It looked like
Yeah,
oh god,
squonk, I think it is.
it must be stone. The O looked like an A to me on the screen. Squank, I thought it was. That's why I thought she was okay.
Squink.
Yeah, squonk.
That's why I'm going to say that instead of skank from now on.
Yeah.
It's way better.
So back to Bigfoot. Got off a little bit, and that was
It happens. It happens.
no, yeah, but that was totally my fault actually going off about the orange and stuff. So all right, so you do think that one video is quite possible, and then
Yeah.
I know you were saying I think that I guess in history, like you're saying, is totally correct. You have multiple different versions of these things all over the world, pretty much just like the pyramids. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So I could see that if it's, and this is why I do kind of like why I liked the way that you guys covered it. I could see maybe is it something that like consciousness can experience no matter where you are. I know it's crazy as that's like why I think like you get the pyramids is because people's consciousness, it didn't matter where you were, you just tapped into the source and you all had the same kind of ideas.
Yeah.
Right.
I
Mhm.
well I think when we covered it on the show, I was linking Bigfoot to poltergeist cases primarily, and
Oh,
showing the
see, I
how
like
there was
that
kind
idea
of like
too.
a overlap between like symptoms, I guess, if you want to
You had
call them that.
mentioned, I think one of you had mentioned earlier, and I'm glad you went back because I forgot already, and I was going to try to get back to that. It goes along with this. I think you were even saying that, like, when they have sightings of it, like, even weird stuff's going on.
Yeah.
And I have thought of the whole poltergeist type theory with Bigfoot, actually, myself. So
Yeah.
that, yeah, elaborate a little bit on that more, I guess.
Yeah,
Sure.
Mike, you want
Yeah.
to cover a couple of those? Because I love that episode, the research you did, because he gave you a choice of like an experience and let you pick what it was, and it was just shocking what wasn't a Bigfoot.
Yeah. It's well, there was a study that was done in the 1930s. There was a researcher named Nandor Fodor who was he was researching the paranormal, but he was trying to like explain supernatural experiences, not trying to prove that the supernatural was real, but trying to rationalize it and figure out what this actually is. And you know, um, his research kind of focused on poltergeist activity. And he had a theory after doing all this research that maybe paranormal experiences were linked to the individual rather than something that's
I
like an
think a
event
lot.
that kind of happens,
I
you
think a
know?
lot of that is. I'm
And
I'm
it
even
it
gonna
would
be
make
silly
sense.
I'm even gonna be silly enough to where I'm gonna make the claims that I think some ghost shows on TV are actually doing that. They're trying to create the shit themselves and they're trying to record it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
They're
definitely.
and
actually
I
doing
mean,
serious occult shit and acting like idiots and making money off of it.
Yeah,
right, yeah.
I
Laughing
remember
They
all
could
the
when
even
way
be
home to
creating
the bank.
tulpas, you know?
Yes.
And then you've got a tulpa running around, and and you have no idea what you created or even how to control it, and now you just let it go in the world.
I remember when I stopped watching ghost shows. There's only a couple good ones anyway, but there's some new one that came out, and they're investigating this fucking abandoned jail, and nothing was going on. So one of them, who's the occult guy,
Is he the
decided
one
to
who like brought in the Jacob's ladder and shit?
like, well, he cut his fucking thumb and did a blood ritual right there on camera,
Oh,
and I was
shit.
like, "What the fuck? Are you
I know
kidding
there
me?"
Wow.
was I know there was one show that brought in a Jacob's ladder. I was like, oh come on, this is just to fucking create electricity. I mean, whatever. That, and then I think they were even like grinding bars and they were trying to recreate this whole thing. And I'm like, yo, this is a little
Hmm.
ritualistic actually to me, but maybe I'm the crazy one. But yeah, for sure. I definitely think some shows do that. And I guess, if somebody would I guess came to me and was like, we'll put you on the travel channel if you want to try to practice magic and just play like an idiot and try to record it. I might actually think about that.
Right?
I'd be like, damn, like, all right, I could practice magic and get paid for it, and it's the other idiot's faults for not realizing what I'm doing. I don't know if you want to look at it like that. Sometimes I have to question: is it just that it's humanity is so fucking retarded? It's our
Yeah.
fault at this point that we don't see what's going on.
Yeah.
I agree with that
Like,
100%.
are they really being assholes, or are we just that dumb? Like, I don't even know where that line is anymore. It's getting so blurred. So,
Yeah, I agree.
but okay, all right. So I'm sorry again, I took you off course, but back to that story again with the Bigfoot, the
Y-
paranormal.
Yeah, what? Why don't you give us one of those examples, Mike?
Well, I wanted to talk about the similarities between the two, um, before I get into some examples, just to kind of show like different researchers and how they're. I think a lot of the problem with paranormal research is that it's so compartmentalized. Like people are like, well, this is an alien story, so only UFO researchers are going to look into that. And then this is a Bigfoot story, so only Bigfoot researchers. And this is a ghost story, so only ghost, you know. So, and there's so much overlap with this. And I think that it's in a lot of cases it's just not recognized. Um,
Hmm.
but
It's a
in the
shame 'cause you think
70s,
they would put more eyes on it, you know what I'm saying?
yeah, but I think it's more everyone has their own idea of what these things are, and instead of looking at it from, the framework that it could be all the same phenomena just taking different forms,
Yes.
versus these are aliens from outer space, this is an ape that lives in the woods, and these are spirits that are stuck in this location. There's a lot of cases where all of these things happen at once, and in the 70s there was these two researchers, Gald and Cornell, who were doing serious research into poltergeist activities, and they studied 500 cases from the 1800s through the 1970s, And after going through all these cases, they found these common symptoms that were in all cases. So, or well, I shouldn't say all cases, but that had overlap in multiple cases. So there was the reported movement or disappearance, reappearance of small items, peak activity after nightfall, anomalous knocking, movement of heavy objects. There was some sort of communication, such as voices being heard or breathing, and opening and closing of doors and windows. Now, the reason I was talking about poltergeist is because there is a specific class of reports for Bigfoot sightings called Class B reports. And a lot of these have overlap with these symptoms from poltergeist cases. So a lot of them seemingly appear around women and children, and traditionally poltergeist activity happens in females as they're entering into puberty. So that matches there. There's heavy breathing heard with no discernible source, anomalous whistles, screams, or laughter, uh, sound of heavy movement in the woods, stomping noises, banging, scratching and tearing noises, uh, the sounds of children crying or screaming, the smell of sulfur or rotten eggs, interference with
So cool.
electronics, and oddly enough, strange lights from the woods.
That's
So
so
these are
cool.
all things that, if reported in a wilderness setting, if you see all these, hear this stuff, see this stuff in a wilderness setting, it's considered a Class B Bigfoot interaction. But if you were to say be at some old house and any of these things were to happen, it would be considered poltergeist or a haunting.
Yeah.
Both cases, there's no evidence of a physical being, right? It's just sounds, smells, and feelings. That's really it. But there's some cases attributed to
See, like, just real quick, I just
yeah,
do want to say, like, I even do think, depending, I mean, may not a person may not be doing it themselves, but I do think the human mind can be tricked into seeing and smelling something,
sure.
or it can make itself do that.
Yeah, it's easy to trick yourself or convince yourself to do
Right.
things
So,
or
like even if there was, I don't know how, maybe like I sometimes try to use radio stations or like some kind of like vibrationary thing going through. Well, maybe just the way our brains decode that is,
right.
you know. So who knows? I'm just go ahead.
But there's been cases where there've been what would be considered poltergeist activity where strangely there's what would be considered Bigfoot evidence. Like in 1956, there's in London, there's a case called the Battersea poltergeist, which was basically typical poltergeist stuff. Uh, Banging on walls, knocking, thumping on the floor, the moving of objects. So one night they decided to throw down powder on the floor to see if whatever was stomping would leave a footprint. And what they found was one large human type bare footprint in the middle of this powder. So I mean that's one of the core signs of evidence for a Bigfoot thing is these giant human footprints, right? And here you have one inside a house when there's Bigfoot activity, but then or where there's poltergeist activity. But in the woods, a lot of times when people have experienced, um, are you familiar at all? Have you ever heard of the Ape Canyon attack?
No,
Okay, I'll run it down real quick.
sure.
In 1920, 20, I don't know, we'll say mid-20s, mid-20s, a guy named Fred Beck was him and a group of his friends were basically attacked by these Bigfoot things. The story that he told was that he was a member of a mining party, and one day they saw basically a Bigfoot, and they took a shot at it, because it freaked them out, and they thought they killed it. They then went back to their cabin, and that night something started throwing boulders at their cabin, and they kept hearing thumps at the door. It sounded like something was trying to knock down the door, and they basically were under attack all night by these things. And then morning came, and it dissipated. Fred Beck said in the weeks leading up to that encounter where they shot the thing, they had been seeing these Bigfoot tracks all around. But he said when they encountered it and they shot at it, and then later when they were attacking, he said that he had the feeling that these were spiritual beings. They weren't actual physical beings that they were encountering, but they were spiritual beings.
You imagine believing that?
Yeah.
And I'm not discrediting him. I'm just saying, like, imagine, like,
That's
that could be
where,
actually more terrifying to somebody than thinking.
yeah, that would absolutely be more terrifying.
Yeah, like
Because what are you going to
made
do
him
against a spiritual
like,
being trying to
like, honey.
kick your door down?
Yeah, the gun.
Yeah,
guns
like what happened that made him think it? Was it the speed of what was happening, or the abilities of whatever was seemingly causing these disturbances? Like banging on this window, and then all of a sudden it bangs on the wall behind them. Then the front door gets bumped. Then a rock comes on, it hits the roof. I wonder if it
Yeah,
was something like that that gave him that idea.
I
I
wonder if he
believe,
went out there and lit a fire, if that would make a difference.
yeah, I don't know.
Because
I believe the
suck up
reason he
oxygen,
thought
right?
they were spiritual was because they didn't, when all this stuff was happening, they didn't see anything. They couldn't see anything, and it could be because it was dark, and these things are ninjas. I don't know,
Well, I'm
but
just thinking of a way to affect the actual like world that we can't see.
yeah,
A way to affect that back at them. I don't know if fire would work, but I would maybe think of doing that because
yeah,
it would be changing the atmosphere around me. That they're throwing rocks at me, and they're from that angle.
yeah,
You know what I'm getting at, kind of.
yeah. There's another case that to me, I don't know what to make of this one, because it sounds like it's like a poltergeist event or a haunting or something, but it ends with an attack by a Bigfoot. So I don't know, but this was from the 40s in New South Wales, Australia. This guy named George Knott and his family moved into a home that had been abandoned for a while. So already we got the makings for a scary story. So moving to an abandoned home, shortly after moving in, they start hearing thumping sounds on the ceilings, and the doors inside the house would start swinging open and then banging closed all by themselves. There were objects that started being thrown around the house, and then there was an occasion where pebbles were thrown onto their roof, but there were so many pebbles thrown that it sounded like it was rain. So
I was
it
just
wasn't
thinking probably
just like
sounds
a
like hail or
handful.
something.
Yeah. But it all culminated with these huge human-like footprints appearing in their yard around the house. And on the last night they were there, this giant ape man, what they described as an ape man, broke through the front door and grabbed Mrs. Knott and tried to pull her outside the house.
Oh shit.
And then, obviously at that point you say, fuck it, I'm done. I'm being accosted by an ape man. I'm not dealing with this shit anymore.
Oh, fuck.
Thumping on the wall is one thing. Getting dragged out of your house by an ape man, something else. So I don't, how do you classify that? Is that because all the other shit happening in the house, there was no Bigfoot there, but then Bigfoot just rolls up and starts stomping around. He's like, hey, I heard there were ghosts here. I want to hang out too. Like, do they have Loch Ness Monster in the fucking pool as well?
Yeah, how would a Bigfoot make it rain rocks?
Yeah, it's just like these stories, they seem fucking crazy and outlandish, but you got to think a lot of these cases, these people aren't getting paid for it. There's no publicity. They're in a lot of these cases, the reason that the story got out was because they were looking for help, and they get other people involved, and then it becomes a story, an event. So it gets, that's how the story gets out. But
Maybe that was
a
like a
lo-
cabin in the woods type movie deal.
Yeah.
When you
That
were like, "Oh, you got Loch Ness too?" I was thinking of that. How they had all those cubes of like,
yeah.
whatever.
What cryptid
Yeah, it's gonna
chupacabra
come
comes
and kill you
flying through the window.
now.
Release the ghost apes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It made me think of that when you. That's funny.
But it's I mean,
That's
when these
both
stories
out
come
there.
out,
See,
it
these
just
stories
seems
I
so
actually
weird.
find interesting,
Yeah.
and I hate
And
to actually admit it. I'm probably going to Google things like this now after the show, and I can't believe I'm actually gonna that I'm
I
even
mean,
admitting that.
honestly, when
But
you
this
start
this is
looking
this
at
weird
it,
stuff. Was like paranormal shit going on with it. I think then you have to start wondering,
yeah, when
is
you
it
start
something in
looking
your
at it, like,
environment?
with the overlapping things, it really opens up a whole new world, it's not. And that's why, like, when I first started researching this stuff, I came into it like hardcore believer, like believed in aliens and Bigfoot is Bigfoot. Bigfoot's not an alien. Bigfoot's not a multi-dimensional creature. It's not spiritual. It's a fucking ape. And the Loch Ness monster is real. And but the more research you do, it kind of, when you start looking at the similarities and not the differences, it kind of starts to paint a different picture of what the nature of the paranormal might be. And it, to me, it makes it more believable because, I mean, sure, saying aliens are real, that makes sense. There's billions of other planets out there. But does that necessarily mean that aliens are visiting us or that they influenced our past and fucking built the pyramids? No, that none of that doesn't necessarily correlate. But when you have all these events that take place, like the one I just talked about, where you've got hauntings and then Bigfoot rolls up, or there's so many cases where there's UFO sightings at the same, like, getting back to the York County in Pennsylvania in the late 70s, they had a long flap of UFO sightings. During those UFO sightings, the Bigfoot sightings increased as well.
Mm,
So it seems weird that there's a correlation between those two.
yeah, that really piques
Yeah,
my
Bigfoot
interest.
and aliens don't mix, I guess, traditionally.
See, and I'm also of the belief, and I've said it multiple times on my show. So this probably isn't new to the listeners, but maybe for you guys, I also do think a lot of UFO stuff is just magic or occult stuff that's being misunderstood. And
Yeah, are you at all familiar with the CE5 uh,
is that
camping
like with
things?
Greer?
Yeah, yeah.
See, I unfortunately, and I don't know if this is in. I'm not trying to knock the man when I say this, but I do think he understands a lot more than what the other people there are doing. Now, I'm not saying that's putting them in any harm or that's dangerous to them, but I do think that man is
Yeah.
practicing magic
Yeah,
through.
he definitely, and he's using that to take advantage of these people, and he's framing it
I mean,
like
the
they're
things.
fucking aliens.
The thing is now. Just thinking about it now, I did say I don't know if it's being harmful to the people, but I just remembered it is also a ridiculous amount of money to pay to go do this.
Yeah.
So I would say he's probably taking advantage of them. I forgot about that aspect.
Yeah, he absolutely is, and it's and it, but that's the reason I bring that up, because the dude, we just talked about him on the show. I think this week we
You know what's
went off
funny? I
on a
made a
great.
couple of remarks about him a few times. I don't know, I think on social media or something, and like I was actually surprised that like conspiracy theorists. There was like a couple of people that I knew that were like didn't thought I was kind of fucked up for saying that. I thought he wasn't a trustworthy person, and I'm like,
Yeah, I honestly think he started out with the best of
oh yeah, he
intentions.
may
Like,
have, he may
in
have.
the early 2000s, when he put out the disclosure whatever interviews, like, he had a bunch of government and military officials that had sightings or encounters or whatever, and they went on record talking about their experiences. And
Yep.
that was his big thing. He had the Disclosure Project was like his baby. But then I think more and more people started wanting to get him to speak, so he started being like, well, I can charge money for this. And then he went off the deep end with the new age stuff, like really heavy into that. And then you can see the occult ties with that. And then his the CE5 is basically a summoning ritual. And he's created, like, he's summoning these things
I'm glad you're
which are
saying it and not
flying
me.
in the sky.
Thank you. Because these are the things that I have said and thought before, and like people are like, "Oh, you're just thinking fucking crazy
No,
shit."
it's when he put out this documentary, I think called I think it was Extraordinary, maybe. I can't
I'm trying to
remember.
think. Is
It's
that like,
it's
even though like the way like I'm saying before, like I've thought like whatever, I have watched I think almost all his stuff because like it's like I still want to see what the fuck he has to say.
yeah.
You
Yeah,
know?
And
yeah.
that one documentary where it was like straight up alien information, and then they just take a hard turn into these rituals that he does, and he's talking about what they're doing and how they've got to send their intent out, and you're using these people to you're telling them that they're summoning aliens, but those aren't you can't summon physical beings.
You think he's just leeching off these people's energy? Then New York, he's just robbing
Yeah,
them of
Yeah,
I
energy.
definitely think that.
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
I think it's almost like you're creating an egregore with like
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
pretty much I mean something along those lines. Yes, he definitely. That's why. That's why I don't normally. I was trying to say like I don't know if it's really harming the people. I'm trying to play devil's advocate here. Especially because I don't want people thinking like, oh, this dude is just always like shitting on everybody. But like, no, honestly, I do think he's using people 100% to acquire
Yeah, and I
whatever
mean,
he's doing out there. I
it could
did
be
forget
mutually
that
beneficial.
these people are paying a ridiculous amount of money. For some reason, I
Yeah,
forgot about that. So that it's even
yeah.
shittier.
But I mean, you're paying the money, and you
You're
know what
paying
you're
me to do magic, and you harness your energy to do it. Holy
yeah.
shit!
But you walk
Yeah.
away for with an experience. So do you what value does that
That's what
hold
I'm
for you
getting
as an
at.
individual? Are you willing to be duped and have your energy taken from you in order to have this experience? Like, is that worth it to you? Or maybe you're an actual believer and you're like, I am communicating with the fucking aliens.
You know what? And this is my opinion when it comes to magic in general. I mean, some people may argue and say maybe that isn't the safest way to look at it, but I do think it should be something that happens to a person individually. That may make it more scarier. That may make it a little bit harder to try to wrap around your head and to figure out what just happened. But you're not going to have somebody else telling you what your experience was. You're going to have to figure that out on your own. Greer could be telling you what your experience was and lying.
Hmm.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And that's the problem when you let someone who claims to have the experience take control of like I do think that in magical works, working alone is in a lot of ways the best way. I agree with that, but there is power in numbers, and I think if so long as you don't have like a someone who's trying to take control of the situation, like it's all agreed upon, everybody plays their role and understands what's going on. That's a bit
And is
different,
all
but
also understanding of what magic is.
right, right, right. You're
I think
not
if
telling people
everybody's
you're
literally
calling aliens.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. No,
exactly.
I get that. I agree. But yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up. And
Yeah, and the reason that I brought it up is because it shows the supernatural nature of what is seemingly not a supernatural thing. Like UFOs, if you look at what a UFO is like in the modern frame of mind, it's an alien spaceship from another planet. So that there's nothing supernatural about that. It's just weird because we don't know what it is. But, it's essentially a living being in a vehicle. So nothing supernatural about that. But when you start looking at these other like the weird things that go along with it, like the fact that you can summon them if you get enough people together and pay enough money, you can go camp with a fucking old bodybuilder and summon aliens.
that's what it's funny that you said that. Because whenever I think of him, what's that he is it briefing? He says this one word like constantly. And all he does is like constantly like, pull out his shirt like he's like,
Yeah, that's like 3 sizes too tight.
yeah, like he's like, yeah, I just got out of the gym and I'm swollen. I got to keep pulling on
Yeah.
my clothes because I'm
Yep.
uncomfortable. It's like that's all he does and keeps saying like debriefed or debriefed. Like,
Yeah. Oh,
fucking
yeah.
shut up already, dude.
Yep.
That's just my.
No, I agree. I used to be a huge fan of the guy, and I
So
thought
was
he was
I when I
doing
was a
really good
kid
things.
or younger, for sure. I was
Yeah.
real.
When
I
I
was
first
a fan
found
of
out
him when
about
he came.
Disclosure Project, I'm like, "Fuck yeah, Stephen Greer.
Do
Fuck
you
yeah."
remember Project Camelot?
Oh my god. Don't
That's how
even
I
get me
found out who
started
he
on
was.
Project Camelot.
Well, see, that's the whole thing too. All
Like,
right, this is
we
awesome.
gonna go down the David
Yes,
Wilcock road
let's
as well.
do it all. Let's do it all. That's amazing that you remember Project Camelot. Thank you. Oh,
Yeah.
that is so awesome. See, that is one of the reasons why even especially Wilcox,
Oh,
Wilcox and Greer Greer was already known,
yeah.
but in my opinion, Greer and Camelot had a WWF feud
Yeah.
just to entertain the conspiracy masses. And
Yeah, because
Wilcox got well known from Project Camelot, and
yeah.
we all know he's a fucking lying piece of shit.
Oh, yeah.
So like you had to question Project Camelot in the first place, in my opinion,
Right.
which is why I think
Yeah.
maybe one of them left.
Yeah. I don't know. I couldn't stand like, I remember
Gary
they,
Cassidy and the guy with the fucking cowboy hat.
yeah, yeah. The old guy with the cowboy hat, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember them talking about,
Yo,
Stephen
you
Greer
know that guy
at one point.
real quick, just to, and then we'll go back into career. I'm sorry, but you know that guy actually around 2012 ended up like I don't know if not convinced. I don't know if he convinced people, but him and a bunch of people who thought that like the world was going to go through some like cataclysm actually legit like moved to a commune in another fucking
Really?
country thinking they were safe there.
I remember David Wilcock talking about that in 2012, like, "Oh, just wait till 2013 and we'll show them." And then nothing fucking happened. Like, the people that bought into that 2012 bullshit were just as bad as the fucking Y2K people. Come the fuck on.
Yeah, for Y2. I remember that shit. The Y2K.
That shit was
I
ridiculous,
remember,
man.
yeah, this shows you what kind of delinquent I was when I was a kid. Everybody thought the lights were gonna go out. And
Yeah, yeah.
me and my
The
boy,
grid's going down.
we had a band together. You know what I'm saying? I played the guitar, he played the guitar. We were in a band, and he literally lived down the road from a music land. We're like, yo, those lights go off, fucking going, dude.
Hell yeah.
Fucking dirtbag. But me and my boy were like, yo, we could get new guitars.
Oh, man. I think I would have been thinking the same.
Yeah, I'm sure. We weren't the only two fucking, high school kids thinking some silly shit like that.
Right, the lights go out and you see like
Yeah.
10 other people from all directions.
Yeah, we're like, fuck, we got here too late.
Yeah, you gotta line up before midnight.
Yeah, I'd be like, fuck, I know that guy. He plays the bass. My friends are the bass. Grab me some foot pedals and just throw some out. Oh man. All right, sorry. It was a good old memory. All right, so we'll get back to Bigfoot again. No, I'm sorry. No, we're talking about Greer and the UFOs and stuff with that. I mean, even you seem to know a little bit about occultism. So, I mean,
Yeah.
have you ever like heard about like supposed like more UFO sightings when Jack Parsons was fucking around with the Babylon shit?
No, I don't know anything about that, but I know,
And
that
Crowley did do a ritual, I think,
yeah, that
that
allegedly
is
summoned the
where
Loch
now.
Ness Monster.
Oh, to be totally honest with you, I would actually think, unfortunately, because of Crowley being over there, I really do think that was just a psyop. Because,
Yeah.
but, no, like he did. I'm almost positive Area 51 is in an area that he did do a ritual in.
Really?
Yeah,
I did not know
I
that.
could be wrong about that. I'm
Hmm.
saying that right now, but I have heard that plenty of times. I don't know if I looked into it and I remembered it as that being correct, or is it just a thing I've taken as truth? I don't remember.
Yeah.
You know. So, but
I
I
mean, honestly, it wouldn't surprise me with the way that, you know, the way a lot of military installations are set up and the way DC is set up, like, it wouldn't surprise me in the least.
Yeah. No, I do. So, like, yeah, even the UFO, like, because when you were mentioning like the paranormal stuff before, and like Bigfoot, and then
Mhm.
mentioning like UFOs and then Bigfoot, that's see, like that's the type of stuff that like really would make me entertain that there's something up with Bigfoot. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
Yeah, and that's to me the biggest thing. If you get over the silly bullshit and just start looking at the really weird stuff and how the fuck do you explain that?
Yeah. See, like for me, I guess like a lot of UFOs, to me, I think could just be like I don't know the best way to explain it, like a ripping everything, ripping the fabric or whatever. Like something's came through
Yeah,
in a sense.
definitely.
So it's like was Bigfoot like a side effect of that?
Yeah, I think a lot of cryptids are like especially the one-off things that just like a group of people see once, like the Flatwoods monster, the Dover demon, like where it's just this weird creature that's seen on this one night and never seen again.
Uh,
And
I
it's
mean,
associated with some sort of UFO activity typically.
even if like I don't know how you guys are with like the Matrix idea or the Matrix theory,
Mhm.
but for like listeners who might even who believe in that idea that we might actually be living like in a computer matrix, I even see how like this is how I had just justified Bigfoot before. Is it just the way that whatever that came in, this is just how the system decodes it, which could lend to
I
other
mean, that's a way
possibly
to
being
look at it.
real because it's just some vibratory rate that the system is just like, all right, this is what we spit out with that. That's why you might get some weird, creepy looking things every once in a while.
right.
I don't know. I mean, I know that's like a little bit more sci-fi, but it's something I do entertain at times.
Yeah, if we're in a simulation, there's going to be glitches. There's going to be stuff that doesn't make sense.
Sure. It's like that's what they say. That's the Mandela effect.
Oh,
Yeah.
maybe, yeah. Or if you wanna look at it from the spiritual side, though, even like UFOs, you could say maybe, UFOs are like the to borrow a new age term, the light body or the Merkaba as they're
Yeah,
entering from another reality into ours. That's the UFO, and then they,
yeah.
basically reform, and here they are
No,
as
I,
a
I've said things along that degree before that I thought UFO sightings were just people popping in and out of the abyss, and that's you're just saying,
yeah.
so what?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I I could 100% see that being a thing, and same with, like, spirit lights, like Will-O-the-Wisp and, like, the, Brown Mountain
So
lights
now,
and
now this is a good segue. Maybe we won't end up getting into the ranch because I would like to keep talking more about UFOs. Um, People who have now these intense sightings or these, people who have these amazing stories that like get known. Do you think that they're misunderstanding their experience? And that like this is my opinion. Like we were saying before, I think a lot of it's actually magic. So as a person having witnessing a magical experience and their brain just decodes it wrong or they just don't know how to process it and that's just how they decode it, or do they understand what they saw and what happened and they were a part of it and now they're just reselling it to the masses? You know what I'm saying? Like if you start thinking that UFO sightings and even alien type stuff like Lamb, look at Lamb. I mean, he looks like a gray, you know.
Yeah.
So like you have to start wondering, like could some of these tales actually just be magicians telling us a fancy story? Could it be somebody was around a magical event or happening and doesn't know what they experienced and they're being honest, but maybe not correct. You know what I'm getting at? Like that's what I think can
yeah.
really start confusing the shit out of UFOs and aliens is because if you start
Mhm.
thinking it's magic, then you have to start wondering about all these like Whitley Strieber. I'm sorry, I think that guy's selling an occult story. That's just my opinion.
There's a
So what
lot
do you
of
think
the
of that?
abduction stuff that could be, when it comes to the abduction stuff specifically, I think that is almost universally true. where it's the person is relating the experience as they believed it happened, but there's more to what happened. And I think a lot of cases it likely is some form of kidnapping, whether it be some like shade experiment or some sort of part of some occult ritual. Because if you notice, a lot of them will talk about having blood taken and having something done with their reproductive organs. Which what are the biggest things that happen in a lot of these occult rituals? Like you need to have the
Yo, I
blood
fucked
or
around and ended up in the hospital, my man, and I needed a bag of blood and a bag of saline.
see?
You see, there was
It
something wrong with my fucking blood, and my eye was 4 millimeters bigger. My right pupil was 4 millimeters bigger than the left one. I had physical fucking issues.
what?
That's what I'm
How did
saying.
that
So, like, these people that tell these stories, it's just like I could make this up and say it was, just my pineal
Yeah,
gland is fucking lamb, or my pineal gland is whatever I'm putting on the front of communion. It's, and
yeah,
it's just and sell an occult story as some fable.
yeah. But a lot of the people that are experiencing it, like they'll undergo hypnotic regression, and they'll undergo lie detection, like all that shit,
Listen,
and
if
they're
you're
telling
having
the story
magical
as they
experiences,
remember it.
if you're having magical experiences and you can do that shit on your own, you're gonna pass a lie detector test.
Oh yeah,
Doesn't
but
fucking matter. You
there's
you could you could look at them and tell them I'm the president of the United States, and it'll say that you're telling
and
the
they'll
truth.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
So that's called magical.
there's some weird details that emerge from this that makes and that really makes me think a lot of these experiences are fabricated experiences in one way or another. And it often has these weird creatures, but also people interacting together, like in these moments of lucidity. So it makes me wonder if it's like one party's wearing costumes, one party is not wearing costumes, and and if you look at things like MK Ultra with the use of psychedelics trying to do mind control, and then if you buy into the Montauk conspiracy thing, the Montauk Project conspiracy, how they were using psychedelics and basically torture and trauma to try to create psychics or jumpstart telekinetic abilities or things or
Listen,
remote viewing, things like that.
I've even thought that some people's stories was like more of like you might have either brushed against something like maybe somewhere you shouldn't have been, or you were actually particularly targeted. Because I do think this is just my opinion. I do think you can force magical experiences onto people without them without
Without them realizing, yeah, sure.
you can suck them out. And so like sometimes like I've heard on other podcasts people's stories about like visuals and all this stuff, and I'm like, if you were to say that with your eyes closed, instead of you saying that this is what you saw in the sky, it'd be the same fucking story that I have before I have a magical experience. So like
Hmm.
either you're telling a bullshit story again, and then I'm not trying to go with that. Or maybe like could people actually would it just be like as an experiment? Phew, see how this person reacts to that experience. Let's see what they think.
Right. I think perception has a lot to do with it. There for me, my family has a lot of history with what I what I know and believe to be as ghosts and hauntings and stuff like that. So there's been plenty of cases where I've been somewhere with somebody else and something strange has happened, a certain sound or something that just straight up can't be explained. And for me, it's always a shock that their mind just doesn't automatically go to a ghost. They don't know what it is. And but and that's just how it is for some people. For
Mhm,
them, they don't understand what's happening. But for me, I know exactly what's happening. So I
mhm.
think perception and history has a lot to do
I
with
think you're nailing it, and another reason why I'm even saying like maybe like why it could be purposely done is because you even be testing maybe people's perception. Because I think maybe the more like me, if that was to happen to me, I think I'd have a different experience to tell than somebody who didn't understand what happened. You know what I'm getting at?
yeah, right, 100%. I agree.
You know, if, to me, I might be like, oh, that I might have like maybe I was just having a magical experience without me trying to do it. Maybe it was a psychological attack. Maybe I just brushed against a certain frequency. And somebody else is like, oh my God, there was a fucking guy in a fucking spaceship and there's lights in the sky. You know, it's like, you know, was that the lights in the sky? Is that the Orphanum? Is that the Wheel of Fortune tarot cards? You know, come on. You know, I've heard, you know, I've even had people tell me, like, basically explain the Wheel of Fortune tarot card on a show of mine as a UFO, you know, experience.
Oh
And I,
wow.
was, I wasn't doubting them, but like, that's just like, they were pretty much painting that, you know, and I'm just like, you know, how much is this just like perception? You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like there is like something really going on, but like a lot of the stories is just people's perception. And what I was getting, like, another thing too with that is like basically like, you know, like what I was saying, like testing people is depending on where you're at in the head, that's all you're going to have to work with. Your brain is
Mhm.
not, for the most part, not going to just magically come up with a way to describe something. It's going to go around and look for a reference. That's all we are, is
Absolutely.
a fucking reference machine up in here, really.
Mm-hmm.
And if
Yeah.
we don't have something to equate that to, it's going to look for the best thing to grab onto it because it's going to get scared.
Yeah, just look for archetypes.
Yes, please. I don't understand this. Tell me what the
Yeah,
fuck it is. And then that's what
yeah,
happens.
Right.
yep,
That's
yep.
the brain's job.
And politics.
But I think that's why you get a lot of the similar type stories from other cultures in the past, but it's with a different frame of reference to it.
Yeah.
You know, like how fairy stories have a lot of similarities with Bigfoot stories and alien stories, and the you keep going back and you've got like the stories of the jinn and how they would interact with people and how that kind of matches with some of the stories of Christian demons. And you know, it's all just different titles and different references that are made to fit the times and the understanding. And now we've got fucking these things are being attributed to fucking aliens because we are modern people and we're a spacefaring civilization now, so we can that's where our mind goes. Something unexplainable in the sky. The only possibility is that it's from another fucking planet. That's it. It's not ours, so that's the only fucking possibility.
Right. You take that example of that ancient Greek battle to where that what did they call it? A flying glowing shield?
Yeah.
You know, and that's I mean, they took it as that. It was a flying glowing shield, a sign from their god to not fight anymore. But if you bring that story to us now, that's clearly a UFO. It just depends on what's going on in your time of existence.
You know, and it's funny that we ended up getting on the topic of UFOs. I literally had a few people hit me up just today. I think on Instagram had sent me messages asking me, what do I think is up with all the UFO business? Like, it just seems
Yeah,
like
it's
it's just
wacky, isn't it?
really well, but that it's really amping up too.
Yeah. Because it's a fucking psyop, that's why.
I think yes.
Since that
Yeah.
article came out from the New York Times, they've been planning, that's all it's been doing is ramping up. They've been dangling carrots to get people interested, but not giving enough information so that we know what's going on, and they just slowly ramp it, and
I mean,
it's
this yeah.
something big is coming, dude. Something big is definitely coming from all this.
This is the funny thing. It's so funny, like just in like conspiracy community land, I guess. You know, you got people that like think that it's just like complete bullshit. You know, that UFOs like what you're saying, it's a psyop. But like now I'm seeing like I guess now maybe they're real and that we're being misdirected right now because there's ones landing somewhere. I just saw this today on Instagram. This is fucking flashing breaking news. There's UFOs landing somewhere and we're being misdirected. And that's why we're I think I guess there's some kind of tragedy, or maybe it was Turkey, or I don't know where they were getting at, but with the quick meme that I saw posted, you know, regurgitated multiple times from people, just the whole, you know, let me just screenshot and share and not actually fucking read it because, you know, it just looks interesting. That type of situation going on Instagram. It seems like that there was like some natural disaster, I guess, that is an excuse to keep people away from aliens landing, like in uh the third, whatever the third kind, that movie, Close Encounters with the Third Kind or the Fourth Kind, whatever the fuck it's called. That's
Mhm.
happening right now, according to Instagram.
Oh, wow.
So
Yeah.
I guess we went from psyops to that they're actually real now and that they're landing and the government doesn't want us to know.
Well, to me, the whole thing with the balloon, the spy balloon that happened. I mean, whatever they let it sit there for days before they did anything about it. That doesn't matter. But
You,
what
you
they're
know what's you know what's funny? Somebody hit me with some Janus symbolism that actually blew my mind with that, and I was like, "Fuck."
oh yeah,
Yeah, but now I think since if there was how many has there been so far? 2 or 3?
Well, they
uh,
reported that there were 5 last week, I guess,
Oh,
but
okay. I
we
think
only were told about the one that got shot down, I guess.
when there was 2, I guess that made
There
it
was
work.
one over
So now
Costa
I
Rica
guess now
as
it doesn't
well.
work anymore. Yeah, I guess it doesn't work anymore. But when there was 2, somebody had sent me some shit when I was like, "Damn, okay."
Yeah.
but what they shot down in Alaska is a completely different thing. I don't know if you've heard the description of what they shot down in Alaska.
No,
It's about the size of a car, completely metallic, no means of propulsion, wings,
it was like a
propellers.
monolith. Shut down a
And
monolith.
it was cylindrical shaped.
Yeah, so I mean, that's if we're just talking like we are here right now, that's not a spy balloon. They shot down a UFO,
I
and
haven't
that's
heard a description of the one that was shot down in Canada though. I don't know what
no,
that looked
me
like.
neither. But I mean, it's a psyop. It's conditioning. Mike, you said a long time ago they're going to want to get us used to seeing things in the sky get shot down. That's unexplainable. But I think it's a little bit of trauma based mind control as well. I mean, it's what was it like 3 different objects now, and they're not again not spy balloons, but just unidentified objects. They wanted to change it from UFO to UAP, but now they're saying that they're shooting down unidentified flying objects. That's a fucking UFO.
Mm.
And if that's the case, what does that mean? They've been around, and people have this real ignorant thing with this alien stuff that's going around. People are our government said that all that shit's real. This whole UFO thing's real, and nobody really batted an eye. I'm like, they admitted it. I mean, so what does that mean for like Bobby Lasers? What I can never remember his real name. Mike, what's his name?
Bob
Bob Lazar.
Lazar,
Bob
People
Lazar.
like
Bobby Lasers.
yeah,
I don't know how I didn't pick that up because I remember Bob. I remember Bob Lazar before he was on Joe Rogan. You know?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly. So I mean, what does that mean for everything he's been talking about and all this stuff? But so they started by admitting it, and it went from admitting that there's these things that are flying around that they don't understand to now we're shooting down unidentified shit. That's real fast. That to me, that goes from psyop to a little bit of trauma-based mind control.
Mm. So and now I want to just, I guess, get back to the idea where we were saying before, like, what if it is like magical effects? Or something, something coming in and out of, whatever into our reality and out of reality.
Mhm.
Um, but like, so now if a supposed UFO event happens, do you think that we're being made to think it's like these people in a spaceship because they don't want the masses to know that they're putting on a elaborate magic show?
Yeah, that would make sense. I would buy into that.
I have wondered that myself. Is if like
Because I think
serious shit's gonna go down or serious shit is going to come in. And yeah, I'm not saying that it's going to be like a destruction. It could take a while to ferment and create whatever has going
right.
to come from it. But I do think that is quite the possibility. And, it will just be sold to people as something else.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I fully believe that because it just seems like
And
the
this
way
is even
that
the
things
other
are being
thing, too,
framed, you know?
real quick if going back from 9/11 aroundish that area, that time frame. I don't want to get too specific about that. But from since then on, even prior actually, we've just been conditioned to be afraid of something we can't see.
Yeah,
So we don't even have to see the driver.
No, yeah,
right.
exactly.
There never has to be no like creature on TV next to the president. Oh, this is going to be great. This is whatever, blah blah blah. We just have to
Yeah,
see something in the sky that's big and scary.
yeah. It's a witch or a communist or a terrorist or an alien. It's all, it's all the fucking same.
To me, what's strange is like Mike, you said something big's coming, and I agree with the recent events of them shooting shit down. But the question for me is, what's coming that's so gnarly that they're willing to distract us with admitting UFOs are real and they're shooting them down?
That's what I yeah.
That's crazy. Are they gonna raise a fucking elder being?
And then
That's
you
like,
also have to think too. Right now, depending on what's really going on. I mean, there is, my opinion, over in Ukraine, there was a lot of beast and symbolism being used. I don't
yeah,
want
I
to say
noticed that.
words because I don't want to have to worry about censorship, but
Right.
there's even that supposedly going on. So I mean, there is destruction of the earth in some ways happening right now anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean,
Yeah.
it's just if when you want to start just taking, I guess maybe removing what the story is being told and just looking at what's actually happening, maybe
Yeah.
it can get a little weirder and almost seem to just connect if you want to start thinking in occult weird ways.
Right.
I mean, I even think, my honest opinion, I even think the forest fires going on and with all the bullshit that happened 2 or 3 years ago was all connected in a sense. So that's why I'm wondering if what's going on over there is going to have anything to do with other things. Which then, if you even think of, if you want to get, real weird about it, it's like, is this just polar opposites across the sea? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I don't know. With the body of water in between, as above, so below, weird shit
Right.
like that.
Yeah.
So, I know it's getting out there, but I think there's a lot of weird shit going on right now, and I don't. I think
There is.
I think the
It's
UFO stuff is going to be, in my opinion, a cover up for real weird shit.
Yeah, I do too. And I think initially I thought that they were floating the idea of UFOs to cover up experimental military craft, like just as a way to, be like, oh, it's UAP. We don't know what that is, but it's really, top secret craft. But with the way that things have been going, it really seems like there's more to it than just trying to muddy the waters.
You know what? That's
Like at
also
this
gonna.
point, they're working towards something.
You know what that will also create? More
What's that?
division.
Oh yeah,
Now you'll
which
have
is
people who
what
are
it
okay with it and people who aren't okay with it. People who like the aliens, people who don't like the aliens.
Yep, yep,
It'll just create more division.
yep. It will.
You'll have people who are both on the same side at one point, both wanting the same thing, hating each other over that one difference.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because they
Alien
love
killed
our
my
alien
brother.
masters. Yeah.
That's wild. All right, maybe we'll just leave it there. I really had an amazing talk with both of you gentlemen, and I really like to be. It was nice to be able to shoot the shit on a UFO topic with in the way that I was with you guys and the way that I was talking about it. It was nice to be able to do that because I haven't really before. I
That's
don't
awesome.
come across too many people that are heavily into, I guess, covering that type of stuff and not wanting to entertain that point of it. So I thought that was perfect for my show, and it was an awesome chat for me. So I thank both of you for coming on.
Yeah.
Thanks for
Thank
having us, man.
you.
Yes,
Yeah.
and right now we're actually missing Rihanna too. So
Oh god damn it.
yeah. I had
Fucking Rihanna's on?
I had the TV muted, and it's she's actually on right now too.
Is she gonna have somebody barf on her?
As of right now, no barfing. She's in a red outfit, of course. But I
Yeah. Okay.
actually, in case anybody knows who Drewcast is, if you don't know who Drewcast is, I will be covering. I'm taping this right now. I was asked to watch this and cover this in my, how I see it. So I should be covering this week on Drewcast, and also on Infinite Fringe this week. I will be covering the Sam Smith performance. So if anybody's interested in hearing that, I just promoted myself. Check that out this week coming up. I don't know if they'll actually drop this week, but yeah, we'll supposedly be decoding Rihanna's. I've already started Sam Smith, so that's definite. I'm definitely doing that one. All right, I'm done promoting myself, and I will let you guys, for people who maybe came in late, Would you want to plug your stuff again, just so people can hear
Yeah,
Sure.
you can.
it? You weren't sure. I'm sorry. I should have asked one of you.
You take it, Mike. I already did it.
All right, so we are the Whatcast. I'm Mike. He's Mateo. You can find us wherever podcasts are under the Whatcast. We're on. I don't even know where podcasts are these days, but we're there. I promise you. Just look for the Whatcast. We've got about 10 gajillion episodes. So
What do you use to host your show, if you don't mind me asking?
We used fucking what was
is
we
it
used
Spreaker?
something. Yeah,
Oh,
we
then your shit's everywhere except for like Anchor.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, it's everywhere. It's
Yep. That's the only reason why I was asking, because I was like, if they use Spreaker, that shit's practically like on
Yeah.
every popular. It's on almost everything except for like that and Podbean and Anchor probably. So yeah, I have your links in the bottom for your YouTube. I got your Twitter. I got your Instagram, and I have what I think you had. Was it an Anchor or a Spotify link on your Instagram? I have that link all on the bottom.
Nice.
So people
We
have no
appreciate that.
excuse not to go check out this show right now. So, so I really want to thank you guys. I actually can say that I had an entertaining and intellectual discussion on Bigfoot. I can't
all
believe
right.
it.
Yeah,
So thank
it's
you,
fun when
gentlemen,
that can
for
happen,
that.
isn't it?
Yeah. And I yeah, it's just these ideas I think people should just start looking at more. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
We
I
can
agree.
explain that maybe there is something up with it, but it's not some caveman. Maybe let's think a little deeper. It's a
Right.
little
Yeah.
bit.
They've existed for thousands of years. They've been reported for thousands of years, and we haven't gotten anywhere with it. Let's
Yeah,
open our.
that's you nailed it. If we haven't gotten anywhere with the thinking that we've had for how long, maybe we should try a different approach. Thank you, my man.
Yeah.
That speaks for all of humanity with everything right now. So I will just end it there. Thank you, everybody, for jumping in on the live. That is what's up. I saw Thrash. I saw Helen. I saw Killa, J Mac, Eric, Marianne. What's up to all of you? Asha, Jonah. Thank you very much for all jumping in. Hope you all enjoy the rest of your night. Thank you again, gentlemen. I had a great talk about UFOs and Bigfoot. We'll have to have another discussion. And until the next one, everybody be well.